Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smile Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Thandi, and joining us today is growth and resilience coach, Amy Goldizen. Welcome to the program, Amy. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here.
You're very welcome. Where are you coming from?
I am located in the Chicago area, but I'm originally from Cleveland and have kind of lived all around. So I'm here for now.
Here for now. So whereabouts in Chicago? I've been actually through Chicago, but just transiting in the airport. That's as far as I did.
Okay.
I've been a couple of other places like San Fran and Seattle in the area, but yeah.
I'm actually in the southwest suburbs, so I'm not right in the city. I think I'm somewhere out a little over a 45-minute drive from the city. Probably more with traffic, but I haven't really tried it yet. So
Okay, so close enough but far enough.
exactly. Yeah, it's a good balance.
Yep, perfect. So let's start by introducing yourself to our viewers.
Sure. I am Amy Goldizen. I am a growth and resiliency coach. I work primarily with entrepreneurs, many of them female, to turn their obstacles into opportunities by reframing their perspectives, working on mindset, and working to overcome limiting beliefs so that they can keep moving forward in the right direction towards success.
All right, that's fantastic. So tell us how life is for you today. So you're doing, all this amazing stuff, and tell us in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, so life today, it's been interesting this year, right? I think it's been interesting for
Everyone.
everybody. 20 thrown us curveballs left and right. So it's been a very transitory time, but in a nutshell, I've shifted a lot of my focus from my marketing agency that I run day to day. Um, and I kind of put a lot of that on autopilot so that I can focus more on this. So I'm getting ready to launch a course that I'm building. It's nearing completion.
Yep.
I am really amping up my one-on-one coaching. I've been doing it kind of behind the scenes, but it's sort of taken a front seat, so to speak, when it comes to my focus and where my energy is going.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what does that coaching entail?
So, I have a framework, right, that I work with, and a lot of it is centered around different mindset practices, different exercises to really help people identify what is holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that a lot of times people know that they're stuck, but the thing that they're focusing on and the thing that they think is the main issue usually is just like a surface level thing. And there's a lot bigger block down below that. So they're like, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. And I'm juggling all these things, but really, there's something a lot deeper. And so typically we'll start off and we will work to uncover exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll custom tailor different practices and, just coaching exercises to get them through that so that they can go from being held back to using that in a way where they see the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of learning that lesson and then using that to their advantage to ultimately, propel themselves forward.
Yeah, so peeling back the onion, so to say, to get to the core of the issue and then find the solution. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what actually motivated you to fall into this path?
Well, it's really truly been a lifetime in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I was born into a very dysfunctional family where both my parents were alcoholics. Um, They actually met in AA. That should have been some kind of red flag for somebody.
Oh, they
But
met.
you know, yeah, they met in AA. Like, I don't even think you're supposed to like be actively dating when you're going through that process. But yeah, they both were alcoholics, and my dad was very abusive, just, you know, physically, verbally, emotionally, psychologically, a lot of narcissistic tendencies.
Yep.
And my mom was just very low self-esteem, low confidence, low self-value. And so it was a really toxic combination. Um, Growing up, I witnessed a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
like attempted murder, you know, my dad trying to murder my mother, being put in the middle of that, and being presented with the choice, look for help, or do you just freeze in fear?
Mm.
Um, I had siblings, and you know, at a young age, I noticed that, hey, we're all dealing with the same like toxic environment, but like one of my older sisters, she actually turned to heroin
Mm.
and all kinds of other drugs, but heroin was ultimately her demise.
Yep.
Ended up overdosing, leaving behind 3 little girls.
Wow.
And my other sister chose to not let those circumstances that we grew up in define her.
Mm-hmm.
And she went on to have a very successful life. She's lived all over the world. She's done well for herself financially. She's
Yep.
raised a daughter in a healthy, loving environment. And
Mm.
so, you know, as a young kid, seeing the fact that we could all be like enduring the same things,
Mm-hmm.
but they chose different paths, it
Correct.
kind of opened my eyes really early to the fact that, you know, your circumstances don't define you. How you react to it
That's right.
does.
Yep.
So that's just kind of carried me. And you know, when I was younger, I I don't think I realized what I was doing, but I developed a lot of just survival
Mm-hmm.
type coping mechanisms,
Yep.
but on the healthier end of the spectrum. You know, I didn't follow the destructive patterns that my one sister did. I was like, hey, you know, this is about mental toughness. This is about getting through this and viewing it in a way that's not going to hold me back or weigh me down. And so, but as I got older, of course, once I was removed from that situation day to day,
Yep.
that's when stuff kind of hits you like a brick wall. You realize that how messed up things really are when it's not your day-to-day normal anymore.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of work to do, you know, to sort through those things myself. But then I used that to, I mean, I've always felt like there's a purpose in everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was intended to use what I went through to, you know, for the betterment of other people and to help other people who might not have been as fortunate as I was to develop those coping mechanisms, um, to develop those coping mechanisms and become more resilient so that it doesn't impede their growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of, I got my degree in psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got my certification in life coaching, and it's really been a lifelong process.
Yep. So just on that, because I found myself um, different but similar kind of upbringing and sort of similar sort of scenario in terms of using my past to fuel my future and to help others. And I think that's what a lot of people do that's in our situation. They've used their past to fuel, you know, their future.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so the way I look at it, there's a few different categories of people. There's a category of people who, whether it's family or it's something else, but they've experienced something negative, um, and then they stay in that category, like just negative, and they become negative, and it becomes their life. Then you've got
Mm-hmm.
the people who overcome that and they change their life and they live on, right? And then you've got those who, as we just said, they use their past to fuel. So the three categories of people. Um,
Right.
now, I've never gone into studying so much about psychology, but is that something in psychology in terms of the different types of minds people are like, and how they react to those situations and what makes them become, because I've always been an optimistic type person, and I've always been that kind of person, like mentoring and coaching type person. So I think pain, coaching, mentoring, and then optimism all comes together into helping others. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's tons of different theories, as to why some people go one way and some people go the other. But ultimately, it does come down to choice. Um, there's nature versus nurture. Of course, there are some things biologically that we just can't control, that we're born with. But that said, even those things, the things we can't change, there's so many amazing people who have taken their disabilities or their limitations and use that
yeah.
as a story to inspire people. So they don't let it hold them back. So if you look at things like that and you look at those people who are defying all odds and taking the most dismal of stories, people who have been dealt the worst hand of cards, who are, being world leaders, or inspiring millions of people.
Mm.
You really look at it and you say, gosh, it's got to be a mindset thing, And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, they I find more often than not, entrepreneurs have a story, a dark, difficult past, and they've learned to rise above that. It seems like it's a propellant for
Mhm.
people who have decided to really kind of take life and run with it in the direction of their passion.
Yeah.
Um, and so, how do people get there? I think it really depends because everybody's experience is so different.
Hmm.
But that said, for me personally, when I had my moment, that pivotal moment, that shift where I was just, because I used to be sad,
Hmm.
I was a sad kid.
Right.
And then for a while, angry, and those are normal emotions to go through. But eventually you get to this point where, some people call it hitting rock bottom, or you just get so fed up
Mm.
with feeling like crap all the time that you you almost just get sick of your own shit, and you're just like, okay, well, I can choose to have a bad day.
Yep.
I can choose to be angry and upset all day, or I can have my moment, allow myself to feel that, and then I can react a different way. I have a choice how I'm going to react. We all have the same sets of emotions as humans, and there's always going to be external triggers that are constantly making us feel certain things.
Yep.
But when we have to be aware that when we feel these things, it then becomes, that's out of our control. Once we feel it and we're aware of it, we have control. That is where we have power, is in those moments where we're like, I'm feeling this, here's what I'm going to do with it.
Hmm.
you know that really makes such a big difference. Some people can do that, and some people, I don't want to say some people can't, because it's not true, but people either they choose to or they don't. And a lot of the time it comes down to the amount of energy and work that's involved to achieve a more positive outcome, because it's not easy. It's a lot easier to just assume victim mode and, just be like, well, this sucks, my life sucks, everybody's out to get me, this one did that to me, that one did that to me. But when it's so empowering to be like, all right, this happened because I allowed it to happen,
Hmm.
or this happened and it serves a purpose. And to be able to extract the lesson from that experience, learn it, and then because you know better, do better, and move on and make different choices that are ultimately going to benefit you, as a person, in terms of happiness, fulfillment, growth, whatever it is that you're looking to achieve.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's like everything, right? You've got two choices: either you sit and do nothing, or you take action. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just depends on which way we want to go. And I think a lot of it comes down to, motivation as well. Are you motivated to make that change, or are you happy to live that same path? So,
Yeah, but I listened to a speech that Mel Robbins gave,
mhm,
and motivation is great, but it's not always there when you need it, you know? So you can't rely on motivation all the time to to get you to take that step. So that's where self-discipline comes in, because and consistency, you have to be like, I don't feel like doing this right now. I don't feel like doing this meditation. I don't feel like completing this task. I don't feel like taking this course, or getting on this call, or whatever it is. But I have a choice. I can not do it and stay right where I am and stay
mhm,
stuck, or I can do it anyways. I can do it uncomfortable. I can do it scared and take another step forward. And a lot of times when we do those things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we know are going to benefit us, we know that's going to impact our growth.
mhm,
If we take those steps anyway, and we push through that, push through the fear, push through the whatever it is that's holding us back,
yeah,
we feel a lot better
yeah,
once it's done, once we actually did it,
yeah. No, motivation is like the flame, but we still need that spark to ignite that flame. So exactly right.
Yeah.
So tell us, I mean, we know where you've come from. We know what you're doing. So tell us some of the stories that you've uncovered and you've helped people push through and find success with.
Oh man.
Like
Um,
one or two that stand out, the big ones.
yeah, so a really big one. I was chatting with this woman who she just was very, very unhappy with
Mhm,
her life. She felt like she was behind, she was constantly comparing herself to everybody.
mhm,
Um, and that in and of itself had kept her stuck for so long, because she just kind of, in her mind, she believed that, well, other people my age are 10 steps ahead of me, so why even try? Like, why even continue pushing? Maybe I
mhm.
should just settle. Maybe I should just get a normal job, or um, something to that degree. And she just felt so pulled to settle because she felt like she was behind.
Yeah,
And so we had to work through that and basically rewire her belief about herself,
yeah.
that you're not behind, because there's 7 billion people in the world, I think it is. um
Something. Yeah.
everybody's journey yeah, everybody's journey is unique. You can't compare yourself to somebody else, because even if you had what they had, even if you were at the level that they're at, there's still going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be. And that's something that we have to be grateful for, because if there was, who would we learn from?
Yep.
How would we, start to define our goals? How would we know what's next, what that next step is? Because learning and growth and self-discovery, there's no destination. It's an ongoing thing.
Unlimited. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, uh, I work with a lot of women, right? So relationships always come up,
Mm,
and there was this one woman where she was incredible. She didn't know it, but
mm,
she was incredible. And, she's like, I keep finding myself in these positions where I'm giving, I'm giving, I'm giving. I'm showing up for my partner. I'm
yeah,
showing up, I've got kids, I'm juggling business, I'm always furthering my education. She wore so many hats. She volunteered with the PTA at her kids' school. She volunteered at the soup kitchens and, the homeless shelters. And I don't know how she did it, because I've got kids, I'm a mom, and I juggle a lot,
yeah,
but there's things that she was doing that I would love to do.
yeah,
And I've not been able to, because I'm just like, I was just in awe of her.
yeah,
And she's like, but I keep attracting men who don't appreciate me
yeah,
and don't value me. And she's like, and then when I find myself in those positions, it really damages my self-worth and my confidence, and then my business suffers, and then I'm not showing up, for my kids or in all of these commitments that I've made in the way that I need to.
Yep.
And she's like, I just don't understand why, I can give so much and bring so much to the table and keep attracting partners who always make me take a step back.
Mm.
And it was hard. It was hard to discuss this with her because nobody wants to hear that, like, hey, you need to look in the mirror because you're amazing.
Yeah.
And your standards are way down here and they need to be way up here because you bring this much to the table.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where, like, she had a lot of self-worth issues going all the way back to her childhood, a lot of beliefs about herself that she didn't deserve up here.
Mm.
But she gave that much.
Yeah.
So we had to rewire that whole entire thought process and reframe her perspective on who she is and her value. And once she was able to see that, and not just see it, but believe it,
Yep.
that's when she was able to step into her power. And she actually ended up meeting the guy of her dreams.
Wow.
And who treated her like a queen, you know what I mean? And it had nothing to do with business. She came to me because her business was suffering as a result of her personal life.
Yep.
But it ended up having absolutely nothing to do with her business. She knew what she was doing. It had everything to do with the fact that she didn't value herself enough to put herself in situations where she could achieve sustainable growth.
Yep. Awesome. So I'm sure you've got tons of stories that would just go on and on with different scenarios and people you've helped. What would be some of the 3 of the biggest pieces of advice, or the biggest piece of advice for anyone with any of these kind of issues that's holding them back?
Gosh, there's so much, but I think that at the end of the day, just being kind enough to yourself that you can go through these reflective processes is so important. Like a lot of times we're so self-critical. And so instead of going through these processes and saying, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I need to change to be able to start creating a different reality, we often are like, oh, why did I do that? And I shouldn't have done that. And I should have done this. And, all of these things. It doesn't really help anybody. It doesn't help us get to where we want to go. It doesn't help us, take that next step. It keeps us stuck. And so it's important to, while we're reflecting, to remember to be kind to ourselves and remember all the things that we've overcome to get where we are today. And this is just another, wherever you are now is just another stepping stone towards, fulfillment and where you're going, which is always being redefined. So it's just an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. Okay, so if we've got someone that's listening and they're thinking that they need some kind of advice or some help from you, how can they get in touch?
They can find me on Facebook at Amy Goldizen. I have both a personal and business page. You can reach out wherever. I have a group on Facebook called Obstacles to Opportunities. And I'm on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. I just started doing the whole Instagram thing because I feel like it's a lot of work, but growing through adversity on Instagram.
Yep. Okay, Amy. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure talking to you and finding out, your story and how you're using it to help others, and obviously how others can, make change. So once again, thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you again someday in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that chat with Amy and you got something out of it. We look forward to our next guest, and we also look forward to you joining us. Until then, bye for now.